Who knows? It's anybody's guess. Let's continue. US Senator on sanctions bill. Putin doesn't deserve more time. And this comes from another legend, US Senator Richard Blumenthal. Blumenthal stated that Putin does not deserve additional time and emphasized the need to speed up the vote on the sanctions bill. He noted that US President Donald Trump's actions are heading in the right direction, but insisted that the sanctions should be 500%, not 100%. This is not exactly breaking news. I mean, we knew this about Richard Blumenthal for a long time ago. But the reason I insist to bring this into the forefront is because what I think we are witnessing here, this is just a small glimpse. We are witnessing the normalization of absurdity. You see, just when you think that we've reached a new low in terms of absurdity, well, someone else says, well, please allow me to show you how it's really done. Or as some people would say, hold my beer. This is absolutely insane. 100% tariffs would be absolutely monumental in terms of the financial cost. 500% would be the equivalent of the termination of all trade between the United States, China, India, Brazil, and everybody else who buys Russian oil. These people simply don't understand that the Chinese and the Indians and the Brazilians, they won't just stop buying Russian oil because Donald Trump demanded them to. To me, this is absolutely mind-boggling. And I honestly don't understand what the end game is. They must be convinced that this tactic will work, or otherwise, I don't think they would do it, because there's no upside to doing this. They risk the termination of all trade between the US and all of these countries. Now let's move on to the situation in Pokrovsk, which is not good. Ukrainian military warns of encirclement risk near Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, and this comes from an anonymous Ukrainian company commander operating on the Pokrovsk front. The Russian salient along the Pokrovsk-Kostiantynivka road has stretched into a pocket over 10 kilometers deep over the past 3 months, now forming the eastern claw of a potential encirclement of 2 key cities, Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. Fighting has been ongoing for several days near the mine by Rodinske, and the first Russian group has entered the urban area of the city. Russian forces are also entering the eastern part of Chernovy Liman, near Rodinske, and are attacking the mine between Novoekonomichne and Mirnograd. We've seen the name of a Ukrainian town in there, Rodinske. This is located right here, and the reason this is so important is because if the Russians take control of this area, of this town, well, from that point, there's not much that can stand between the Russians and the full encirclement of the Ukrainian troops. And there's a reason for that. You see, around Rodinske, there are quite a few mines, which should technically be really hard for the Russians to bypass. But according to this Ukrainian commander, well, the Russians are actually bypassing those just fine, possibly even beyond the expectations of the Ukrainians. Now, this was just setting the scene. Now let's dive into the specifics. By doing so, the Russians aim to cut off the main supply road for Ukrainian forces on the Pokrovsk front, which runs from Dobropilia through Bilske and Rodinske to Pokrovsk. According to Deep State, a Ukrainian group of military analysts, Russian troops are now about 7 kilometers away from this road. However, military sources speaking to Ukrainska Pravda said that as of the 29th of July, today, Russian forces had been spotted just 1.25 kilometers from the road. What's still unclear is if those Russians that were spotted so close to this road, this one right here, were sabotage groups or not. But regardless, if the situation continues as it is today, I don't think it's gonna take more than 7 to 10 days maximum before the Russians get full control of this road. And when that happens, Pokrovsk and Mirnograd will lose their main supply route. And as for Mirnograd, it will leave it completely cut off. Now, what we are seeing here is the exact same approach that the Russians have used in Avdiivka, in Ugledar, in Selidove last winter. Is the same exact playbook. Encircle the city, cut it off from the main supply route, and then just allow the Ukrainians to make a decision. Do they want to sit there and fight, or do they retreat? Now, let's hear from this company commander who's basically begging the Kiev regime to allow them to withdraw. And this is the quote from the company commander. The first group of the enemy is already in Rodinske, and they are also active on the approaches to Bilitske. If they capture these settlements, logistics will be cut off at Mirnograd, creating an encirclement. We risk losing the people who have held back the enemy on this axis for almost a year. We fear it may end like in Avdiivka or Ugledar, where we held positions to the last man and ended up losing both the cities and the soldiers. That's a bad scenario. Maybe public attention will help, at least partially. What this company commander is saying is exactly what many people have said during the battles of Avdiivka and Ugledar. People who have criticized the Kiev regime for fighting to the last man over ground that they could no longer control. But you know, at the time, these people were labeled Russian propagandists, Putin apologists. That's not true. It was an orderly retreat, we were told by the Sirskis of the world and the green t-shirts of the world. But this company commander is saying, well, no, it was actually very bad, and now we risk ending up in the same exact situation. To me, that sounds like a plea to the Kiev regime to allow them to just move a few steps behind, because otherwise they will be fully encircled. This is why he's saying that maybe public attention will help this time. This is a desperate situation. Now, he's not using desperate language because at the end of the day, he's still a soldier and he needs to honor his profession. But make no mistake about it, that is a desperate call. A desperate call for the Kiev regime to finally wake up to the realization that not every single inch of ground can be held. Continuing the quote, we are not calling for the withdrawal of units from the defense lines, but we are calling for a shortening of the line along the edges of the cities to withdraw from the wooded areas in order to consolidate the defense and concentrate more forces to hold back the enemy. That would also mean a shorter logistics chain and the ability to maneuver in case the road is cut. To me, this makes total sense, and this is why. The Ukrainians, they don't have enough troops along the Pokrovsk and Mirnograd axis to effectively hold the Russians back. They just don't have the numbers, and this Ukrainian commander is indirectly confirming it. This is why he's asking the Ukrainian command to allow them to withdraw closer to the city, because at that point, if they do that, they wouldn't have to spread themselves so thin as they are doing it now. This is the whole point of this. It's numbers. The manpower shortages cannot be overcome by any sort of weapon shipments from the West. If the Ukrainian command is gonna listen to him or not, well, that's an entirely different matter. Probably not. I mean, the green t-shirt, he still needs to maintain the image of we are fighting for every inch of ground. But my friends, I'll leave this episode here. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I wish you a fantastic rest of the day, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care, and bye-bye.